Welcome to ILTV's Insider. I'm Ladar Gavelazi, and today we're discussing the Israel-Lebanon maritime border deal, which has apparently hit a snag, with Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid reportedly rejecting Lebanon's amendments to the agreement. The draft presented by the United States last week was meant to be close to the final version of the deal, intending to delineate a border in the Mediterranean Sea that would likewise determine which country has rights to a number of different oil and gas resources in the area. The proposed deal has come under scrutiny in Israel in recent days as opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu accused Prime Minister Lapid of giving up sovereign Israeli territory and calling the agreement illegal. Meanwhile, Lapid is trying to push through with a deal ahead of the Israeli election slated for November 1st. And so joining us now to discuss the deal and the latest developments is Dr. Mordechai Kedar, researcher at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies and an expert on the Middle East, and Professor Efraim Inbal, president of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Thank you for joining us.
A pleasure.
So, Dr. Kedar, let's start with you. This deal, which now seems to have hit a snag, has caused a great deal of controversy. And while the details have not been made public yet, what can you tell us of the developing deal? What do we know so far?
Well, it depends which newspaper you read or to which TV channel you watch. So far, we didn't see the official and full version of this agreement. And from what we hear, we actually know the broad lines of this agreement, which are Israel gives up on a territory in the sea, while Israel gets some percentage from another gas field, which is right across from Sidon in the Mediterranean Sea, means that Israel is giving away a land, maritime land, in exchange of money. This is bad. This cannot be, because this gives us an image of a slime, which all he wants is only a money, rather than keeping its territory. And here in the Middle East, it's very important, because next time we have negotiations with Gaza about another gas field vis-a-vis Gaza and other gas fields. So this is a very bad precedent that Israel gives up on a territory in exchange of money. However, don't forget that the government which decides or might decide about this issue is an interim government, a government which has no legitimacy from the Knesset, a government which is only supposed to control daily life in this country until the elections, and this government has actually no mandate to sign an agreement with strategic long-term ramifications.
So I want to get to this government in a second, but I want to hear from Professor Inbal. I mean, why does Israel need this deal? We just heard from Dr. Kedar that it's shaping up to be a bad deal. So why does Israel need this deal? What is Israel likely to receive in return?
I think the position of the defense establishment is that it's very important to make a deal with Lebanon, actually with Nasrallah and Iran, hoping that this will stabilize relations between Israel and its northern neighbor. This assumption is very problematic because in the past there were points of disagreement between Hezbollah and Israel. Once it was Blue Line, afterward it was Shaba Farms, and now it's maritime exclusive zone. And I'm pretty sure that he'll find another reason to have tensions with Israel, because to a great extent, this is rationale for having a separate military organization in Lebanon. Furthermore, I think that from the witness of the American former negotiator, it seems that Israel gave up the whole area of dispute, line what's called 32. After 2 years, I think the Lebanese decided they want more for bargaining purposes, but eventually Israel gave up all its claims to the exclusive zone in exchange for some potential income from a gas field that was not found yet. I'm not sure it is a very good deal.
All right, so you seem to have, there seems to be sort of a consensus that this isn't shaping up to be a very good deal from Israel. I mean, what we know so far, Israel is likely going to give up a significant section of its land, including the Kana Reservoir. I mean, why should it do that? Is it even going to bring about normalization with Lebanon in any way? I mean, just for the prospect that perhaps Hezbollah will not attack? I mean, Dr. Kedar, what are your thoughts?
The Lebanese made it quite clear it's not even willing to sign the agreement in public. They don't want a ceremony. They don't want anything that will indicate that there is even the slightest recognition of the Jewish state. I think that the government was in a hurry, and hopefully the Lebanese will insist on modifications that will help us refuse the deal in the near future.
So, Dr. Kedar, I mean, you mentioned the deal was very problematic for Israel. Also, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more?
Definitely, because I think that behind Nasrallah, who is actually the Lebanese negotiator, stands Iran. And Iran is waiting for Nasrallah to win in these negotiations because they're going to get money from that gas field. Somebody published that Russia withdrew from this gas field across from Sidon. They had 20%, and Iran will probably jump in order to buy or to get or to receive this 20%, so they're going to get big money out of this gas field, which we actually allowed the Lebanese to dig for. So this is the problem, that Iran is here participating in with big money, and any concession which Israel will give will actually play to the playground of the Iranians.
So Lebanon, as we know, is in a very bad economic and political situation. I mean, what is Hezbollah's role in this dispute and in these negotiations?
First of all, he couldn't care less about Lebanon. Let me tell you very simply. If he cared about Lebanon, he would already try to do something with the harbor of Beirut, which he caused the destruction of this place. If he cared about the future, the economy of Lebanon, he would make sure that people have what to eat and gas in the gas stations and electricity at home. He couldn't care less. All he cares is about how to take Lebanon as a ruin, and in order to be viewed as the savior of Lebanon by squeezing Israel economically and morally and from the territorial point of view as well, in order to show that he is the hero of Lebanon, the savior of Lebanon. This is what he wants. After all, he doesn't care for much more than this.
And Professor Enba, would you agree with that assessment? I mean, what does Nasrallah hope to accomplish with this deal?
He will try to show that he is a winner in this case. I must say, I suspect the change in the contours of the deals that was hoped by Israelis is result probably of American pressure. The Americans are very eager to put as much gas and oil on the market in order to reduce inflation, to reduce dependency upon the Russian energy sources. And the Israeli government, wanting to be in very good relations with the Biden administration, agreed to change its initial position and agreed to the suggestions of the American mediators that actually proposed the deal that was a Lebanese deal from the very beginning.
I see. Now, Dr. Kedar, you mentioned that this is an interim government that is pushing forward with this deal. How much of this has to do with the fact that the Israeli elections are coming up and Lapid wants to maybe score some sort of victory, perhaps, in negotiating a deal?
I think this is too clear that all he wants is to broaden his constituency, because he addresses the part of the people here in Israel who unfortunately might care more for their money or the money of the country, which is more or less theirs as well, rather than the territories which the country owns or has. And he actually addresses these people. And if he comes to an agreement, as was published, I think that he will be the biggest winner of elections here in Israel. I'm not saying that he will exceed the Likud, but definitely people who all they want is, let's say, a few years of some kind of a calm situation with Lebanon would vote for him for. And of course, those who prefer money definitely will like this kind of agreement, and this is a very big danger.
Now, you keep mentioning money, but, is money, does this also go hand in hand with Israel's security?
Lapid mentioned it. Lapid mentioned that we agreed to a line which the Lebanese would agree upon, while we are going in exchange to get big money from a gas field which is shared by Israel and Lebanon. First of all, if it's shared, why should we not share the revenues from the gas field? So what, are we going to get a bigger part from our partnership? This is actually money. And Liza Minnelli already with Joel Gray already taught us that money makes the world go around. The question is if we should agree to such a situation.
But again, so money, what about security? Will this also buy Israel and Lebanon quiet, peace? Professor Imbal, what are your thoughts?
I don't think so, because Lebanon is not an independent state. Lebanon is basically a tool of Iran. And when Iran wants tension along our borders, they'll produce tension. And the agreement on the exclusive economic zone is not relevant to the main relations between Iran and Israel. I think that, to continue the discussions that were started before, I doubt very much if Lapid made the right decision in electoral terms. It seems that even within his own government, there is opposition. And we see that Lapid maybe is a bit, too eager to make deals that will make headlines. And this time, I think his decision is wrong.
Is wrong. Now, opposition leader, former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has publicly come out against the deal, criticizing Lapid for giving up sovereign Israeli territory, calling the deal illegal since it is through an interim government. What are your thoughts on this? Netanyahu has also said that he will not, should he be elected and form the next government, the next coalition, that he will not stand behind such a deal. I mean, is this plausible? Is this possible that he could withdraw from any negotiated deal that Lapid would sign? Dr. Kedar.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, because a legal government, according to some interpretations of the law, might have also a permission to do something on the strategic level. Definitely, if this issue comes to the Supreme Court, the decision might be rather political.
And Professor Imbal, your thoughts?
Well, I'm not an expert on constitutional law, so I don't know what kind of forum should take the decision. Generally, I agree that an interim government should be careful in signing agreements that have long-term implications. I'm sure that there are certain circumstances which may allow it. I'm not sure that this is the case now, but again, I reserve my judgment until better judicial minds will make a decision.
All right, and now going back to the agreement, Lebanon issued a number of amendments that, while have not been made public, has issued amendments that Lapid has even said that Israel should reject. Do we know anything about these proposed amendments? Do we know what the points of contention are in the agreement?
I don't know.
What was
I'm not
published?
sure that they were published. If Lapid will reject those amendments, I'm sure he will publish them in order to gain some legitimacy for his decision.
And Dr. Gadar, you also wanted to answer that question?
Look, we still have like more than 3 weeks until the elections here. Today, as we speak, the Israeli media published that the Lapid rejected all the amendments which the Lebanese suggested or asked. Means as it is today, there is no deal if the Lebanese will insist on their amendments. However, we still have more than 3 weeks. And more than 3 weeks means that like 2 or 3 days before the elections, they might come to an agreement about some things. And Lapid will do it only in order to increase his chances in the elections, which will be on November 1st.
And yet, a deal is taking shape, but it doesn't go solely through Lapid. The Security Cabinet still has to approve it, as does the Israeli Knesset. Is that correct?
I don't know what will the legal advisor of the government, what will she say. Just to remind you, a couple of weeks ago, the Supreme Court rejected her decision to nominate the former judge Mazuz for 8 years. Means the Supreme Court understands that an interim government is not supposed to decide about things which will be like 8 years, as it was in that case. Apparently, she will decide that the device or the body which will take the decision about this agreement should be the Knesset. And if this will be the Knesset, the Supreme Court will say, okay, the Knesset is wide enough with the opposition as a representation in the Knesset. And it's okay if the Knesset, until the elections, and I think that if this will be the legal advisor's decision to delegate it to the Knesset, the Supreme Court will accept it.
Now, Professor Inbal, do you think that this deal, as it is now, or with any amendments, has enough of a majority to pass in the Israeli Knesset?
Doubt it. In the Knesset is divided between the opposition and the coalition. The coalition lost the majority, and this is why it is an interim government. So I'm not sure that bringing into the Knesset will mean an approval of this agreement, particularly since parts of the coalition, as it was leaked, like Bennett and Saar, ministers in the government, do not favor signing this agreement. So probably the best thing will be to delay it, as difficult decisions are being delayed sometimes, and we'll see what happens after the elections. And as we all are afraid, even after the elections, we are not sure that we'll have an adult.
You know, we keep hearing from Israel that we are negotiating bad deals. There was a bad deal with Iran, now a bad deal with Lebanon. How is it that Israel is continually on the sort of the bad end of these international deals? Dr. Kedar, why don't you start?
Well, I think that Lapid is the Israeli alliance of Joe Biden. And since Joe Biden is crawling in order to appease the Iranians, parallelly, Lapid is crawling in order to appease Hassan Nasrallah. It is the same equation and the same issue.
Professor Inbar, your final thoughts.
Well, I think definitely a valid point in believing that the deal was a result of American diplomacy that desires to lower energy prices for a variety of reasons. And they believe that more resources being researched and maybe developed in the East Mediterranean will lower the energy prices, which, of course, fuel the world economy.
All right, Professor Efraim Inbar and Dr. Mordechai Kedar, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And thank you to our viewers for watching. I'm Ledar Gavei-Lazi, and this was ILTV's Insider. Please tune in next time for more on Everything Israel. And let us know in the comments online if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover. And finally, for more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at ILTV.tv and sign up for our streaming platform at ILTV+. Thank you, be well, and see you soon.